Law Talk with Nick Maruchak. Thanks to MKI Legal, your trusted employment and family lawyers.
I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won.
Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal joins us in the studio. G'day, Nick. Good to see you.
G'day, Bowie.
How's things? Busy?
Yep. Busy as always.
Always busy, working on the weekends, all of that.
Yep.
Doing your damnedest. Nick, who is the Children's Court has a president, I think, doesn't it? Or what's the title of someone who looks after the Children's Court?
So it's the president of the Children's Court, and at the moment, the president is a guy called
Hilton Quayle.
Yep, that's right. And he's currently he's a judge in the district court at the moment. So,
Okay.
So he's in charge of all the magistrates in the Perth Children's Court.
All right. Hilton Quayle is a high-profile lawyer, as was once the head of the Law Society, and I do remember talking to him many, many times on the program in previous iterations. Nick, under different management parameters here at 6PR, 133 882 if you have a question for Nick. So if someone's presiding over a children's court issue, how does the sort of the performance review go? A lot of our listeners are saying who gets to tell a judge or a magistrate or the president of the children's court how they're going?
Yeah, so if the offender or the police or the prosecutor is unhappy with a decision here, my understanding, I don't practice in this area, but I did some research, and the understanding is you do an internal review. So it will go from it's like a fast track appeal. So it'll go from you can ask the president to review the decision, right? So that's your first step. So the president will review it, and that can be initiated by the prosecutor or the offender. If they're after that internal review, if someone's still unhappy, then it will go to either the district court or the Supreme Court of Appeal. So it'll go to a proper court. So it's designed just to be quicker.
Even if it's an under 18 matter?
Yeah. Okay. But when it's dealt with, you still maintain the privacy of the offender as well. And when it comes to sentencing, they just have a different approach for children. So when it comes to adults, they look at proportionality, they look at deterrence, they look at all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to children, they look at it from from rehabilitation point of view, right? So they're trying to avoid detention as a last resort. So they're trying to do everything they can to give a non-custodial sentence and to try and rehabilitate the offender. So, and there's probably good policy reasons for that because they're trying to give kids a second chance so they don't become lifelong criminals. So that's why probably the sentences are often more lenient.
Yep. So our question today, and I understand all that, Nick, and our question today is about public education and about campaigns, but our listeners have very quickly gone back to sentencing regimes, deterrence and all of that, which is completely fine. It's 23 and a half minutes to 11. If you'd like to speak to Nick, you can. I've worked in government departments, and you have a boss, you have a line manager, and they sit you down once a year and you go through a document. How do you think you've gone? Good, yep, satisfactory, excellent, etc. And you don't necessarily get a pay rise, but you look at your goals for the following year. Do you reckon, I know it's not your area, but do you reckon judges and magistrates sit down with the boss and they go, good, tick, not so good? What do you think about this?
I don't reckon the judges. They're their own society. There's a lot of mystery to it. Because judges have to be independent, and a judge has to be impartial when they're judging a case. You have to limit the amount of influence from outsiders, right? Because politicians and other people and special interest groups can get involved when they don't like judges' decisions, and sometimes judges can make decisions that are really powerful and change the course. So they have to be independent. So there are some checks and balances in place, right? You got like corruption and stuff like that. You got conflict. You can the best you can do if you're unhappy with what a judge does outside of corruption, right? That you can make a complaint to the court. So you make a written complaint to the court, and then the chief judge of that court, the head honcho there, would review it, and then you don't really know what happens next, right? They might sit them down and say this or that, but they don't have those performance reviews criteria, right? And judges are appointed for life. My understanding is there is a retirement date based on age, but they're there for life, and that's the idea of...
Is ringing a talkback radio station a complaint?
No.
About a judge?
No. You have
I'm
to
getting plenty today.
Yeah, and I tell you, like a lot of lawyers wouldn't, sometimes they're unhappy with what judges do, but they'll never complain because you don't know the next time you're going to appear in front of this judge, and they're all human, right? Judges say that they don't want to have a negative view of you. So, but if you're a member of the public, then yes, just you're unhappy, you're involved in a case directly, write a complaint to. There's all the complaint process, and then see what happens.
Very interesting, isn't it? And I guess this is we're getting a lot of public opinion on that sentence from yesterday, but I just wonder if that's taken into account by, it sounds like judges don't have a boss, or a magistrate doesn't have a boss either.
No, they don't. And what happens is if you're unhappy, besides the complaint, you just appeal the decision, right? So then a more senior judge or a group of judges will review the decision and then will make a...
But you have to be involved in the case to do
yes,
that. Okay, that's interesting. It's 21 minutes to 11. Speaking of retirement ages and forced retirement of judges, we started this chat last week, Nick, when you were here. Age discrimination in the workplace. You've done some research on this, and this... may impact on some of our listeners who are my age or a little bit older. There's some things you can and can't do in a workplace with older employees, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right.
Aren't there?
Yes, this is an area that I think age discrimination is a thing. When I say that, it is still prevalent in the community, and a lot of people experience it. But it's hard to prove, right? You sometimes have a feeling that you've been discriminated against, but you don't have all the evidence. The good news is if you have a strong suspicion under like the Fair Work Act, for example, you can make a claim, and what happens is there's a presumption that you actually were discriminated against, and the employer will have to disprove it. So in other words, they're guilty until they're proven innocent.
It's the other way.
Other way. So that if you're covered by the Fair Work Act and it's employment related, that's an important thing that you have. So some things to watch out for are when it comes to age discrimination. Be careful, employers have to be careful of stuff they put in job ads, right? So if they're seeking, energetic people, or digital natives or recent graduates, that could be a sign that they're targeting towards young people. But it also has to be bear in mind that age discrimination affects the young and the old. It protects everyone, right? So young people do experience discrimination, but here we're focusing on the older Australians. In a job application form, if they put a date of birth on it, right, or a graduation year, and it's not strictly necessary, like they don't need it to do background checks, that could be a big sign that could be a focus on older. They say we want a cultural fit. They say someone's overqualified. Sometimes that's code for, what does overqualified mean here?
Too old.
Yeah. If something that's also it could be in play is if they have blanket fitness bans or fitness tests, right? So they make everyone do a fitness test and it's not necessary for your job. Well, that could be something called indirect discrimination, right? So there's direct discrimination where they specifically target you as an individual, and there's indirect discrimination where they set policies or conditions in place, such as a fitness test, that could disadvantage someone who's of a certain age, right? So that would be an example of indirect discrimination. So the way that companies get around this to avoid it, there are some exceptions, right? So if age is a requirement of the job, then that could be lawful, such as, the only example I can think of is if you have a driver's license, right, you have to be a certain age to have it. So that's not age discrimination. Or sometimes pilots have a retirement age, so it's a forced retirement age. But there's also a few other things, like if you just getting outside of the workplace, there are some stuff that private organizations associations can discriminate, right, based on age or based on sex discrimination and stuff like that. So you can, as long as it's a private club, you can get around it that way. And there's also things under these laws which is called special measures, where it's called positive discrimination, where you kind of just you do something that's discriminatory in nature, but you do it to help a disadvantaged group of people, right? And an example of this is maybe a seniors discount and concessions, right? So that on the face of it can be discriminated against young people, but that's designed to help people. And another example is if you have special accommodation for young people, right? Focused on young people, homelessness. Yep. That could be an example. Yep. And another last thing is you can apply under these discrimination laws to get a temporary exemption, right? To say, I want to discriminate for this limited period of time, can you allow me to get off? And one example, it's not related to age, is something the Lesbian Action Society actually in the Eastern States applied because they wanted to have an event, a public event, that says that only biological women could attend. So that would exclude trans women, right? Yep. And they argued that this is for biological women's safety and prevention, and it was quite public on this.
Yeah, it's in the news at the moment.
Was it? Is it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, with I think it's a group that people could it's a women's group, and, and a transgender person called Roxanne Tickle wanted to join the group and was disallowed, and the head of the group has now done something like 50 interviews. And Roxanne Tickle is now saying you've discriminated against me in all of those interviews. As well as not allowing me in the group, you discriminated against me each and every time. So that is an issue. Hey, Nick, we need to take a break because it is now 11:15. 133 882. If you have a legal question, call Nick now. He'd love to help you. He's very good. Family law, contract law, having beef with someone over an estate, whatever it is, give us a call, 133 882. And we have learned in Western Australia, although the details are scant, Nick, that you can discriminate someone on the grounds of pronoun that they want to be described as. So we'll come back and have a look at that in just a second. 15 and a half minutes to 11. Call in, 133 882. Just to clarify on the school with regards to the centres that we saw yesterday, the school at the western end of the shops is Ellenbrook Secondary School. Averley Secondary is towards the Vines, close to the sports fields. Thank you. I think there's Swan Valley Christian College in there as well, isn't there? Thanks for listening in. Thanks for pointing us in the right direction. I reckon I'm close to being on the right path with the shops and with the school there. Des has phoned in. G'day, Des. How are you, Des?
You?
Yeah, far away.
I'm here.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. This is a million years ago it happened to me. But I was told that if I wanted to speak to the person who had offended, I wanted to sit down with the offender across the table from me. And I was told, write to the department, we will discuss it, put it before a panel, and then we will ask the offender's mother to ask him if he wants to talk to you, and if he says yes, you can. Otherwise, bugger off. We don't want to know you.
So where did it end up, Des? What did you do?
23 years ago, and I'm still sort of sitting here, and from different governments, I always get, the person is no longer on our books.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, okay, thanks, Des. I get it. Is that unusual, do you reckon, Nick, that a victim wants to speak to an offender?
So there is, I would say generally, right, in Western Australia, victims of crime do have rights. So we have victims of crime legislation that the DPP, and there's guidelines in place where they have protections and they have to be treated with respect, and there's a whole bunch of rights they have. And one of the rights they have is the right to give a victim impact statement and read it out in court to let the court know how they've suffered when it comes to the sentencing. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to youth offenders, though, so these are in a special camp where the emphasis is on rehabilitation, accountability, and that kind of stuff. So direct contact with a youth offender is not automatically granted, right? So if it was to be granted, my understanding, it would be very structured and a controlled way where they have a special team involved that will deal with this, and counsellors and all specialised people. So I'm not saying it can't happen. It might be able to happen, but it would be unusual. And the people the people that are the specialised team that are handling will have to have a good reason to allow it.
Must be rare though.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it happening. Thanks, Des. Always good to know you're listening. Thank you. G'day, Liz.
Oh, hi. How are you, Simon?
Yeah, good, Liz.
Simon, I have a question for Nick. It's in regards to, we're trying to do probate for my late brother, and there are, on the medical certificate, there are medical things listed there that are just so incorrect. I'm trying to find out how we can go about having these things looked at and corrected. Obviously, one being dementia. You can't make a rule if the person's in that sort of state. Yeah. And that's the main issue. When I wrote to the doctor that I thought might be able to help, because I'd gone with my brother to an appointment with him he's come back and told me that I need to put in a formal request for clarification. Now, I've been searching to find what this means and how I go about it, where I can get one from, for the last 2 days. And I've even spoken to a lawyer today, and he's like me, blankety blank. So I'm just wondering if Nick might be able to shed some light on what this is and how I can go about acquiring it to take the next step forward and trying to sort this problem out.
So, Liz, you reckon the medical records are incorrect?
Oh, they are. They're definitely incorrect.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah.
All right, let's see what Nick thinks.
Okay, so
stand by, Liz.
So my initial thing is, all right, so the doctor put something on the death certificate which will make it now harder or more difficult for you to apply for probate, right? So if they have, for example, dementia on there, and then there's a will, and then there's questions in place whether the person had capacity when they executed the will. So if you think that the cause of death or the medical grounds on the certificate were wrong, and you have medical evidence to disprove it, then the first step is try and contact the doctor and see if they will be able to amend it. But there is a process, my understanding, with the Department of Births, Deaths and Marriages where you can request to amend the death registration. So have you spoken to the department? That would be, they do have a process there, and that would be my first step to get some guidance, because you can actually fill out a form and ask for a correction. So speaking to the doctor first, and then also speaking to Death, Births and Marriages would be the 2 steps I'd recommend. Have you explored that at all?
Well, that's the situation, Nick. I have gone back to the doctor.
Yep.
That I was in attendance with my brother when we went to see him in regards to whether my brother was showing signs of Alzheimer's or dementia. And it's this particular doctor who has come back and said, I need a formal request for clarification before he will give me any information. So this is what I'm trying to find out. What is a formal request for clarification?
I don't know. I can have a look at it, Liz. So I off the top of my head, I don't know if that's a medical thing or what it requires, but I can have a look at it, and then I can give you, if you leave your email, I can give you some. I can research this further and give you some information.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. So I'll put you back to Soph and to Mr. Doran, and we'll grab your number there. Thanks, Liz. Thanks for calling. G'day, Alex.
G'day. Hey, look, I've got a question about wills. So if I write a will and list the beneficiaries in that will, is there a way to stop anybody from contesting that will? Is there something else I can do? Because there's a friend who's going through a bit of an issue at the moment where, the will lists the beneficiaries, but it's being contested.
Yeah. So who are you trying to block?
Is there a way to stop that?
Because only certain people can challenge a will, like children, parents, stepchildren if they're financially supported. So siblings can't. So there's a strict criteria. Are the people that you're trying to block from challenging your will fall into that category? It's immediate family? Yep, okay. So, all right, so they can challenge it. So this is some things you can do. One is you can write a letter which you don't attach to the will. Make sure it's not called a testamentary document, but you set out all the reasons why you're not leaving this person anything, right? So if you've lost contact with them, especially things they've done as an adult to negatively affect the relationship that caused you not to leave money for them, put it in the letter and sign it. Don't attach it to the will, but leave it next to the will and make it clear this is not a will. This is just my description, and that can be used in court if they ever challenge the will as your evidence, right? Another thing you can do is you can obviously make distributions while you're alive, but you can't actually stop the challenge. That's the hard thing, right? You can't exclude them. All you can do is build up the best case you can to make sure that they don't succeed or make it harder for them. But at the end of the day, if they do challenge the will, then your executor will get involved, and your executor will negotiate with them, and maybe they might reach a settlement. And if they do reach a settlement, they can amend your will after death. They sign a document called a deed of family arrangement. Or if they want to go all the way to court and challenge it and go to trial, sometimes it just costs a lot of money, right? Sometimes it's just cheaper paying them off instead of going all the way to court and taking that chance on whether they'll lose or not. So it depends how strong the claim is. The other thing is probably you can do more sophisticated things like this is like if because they can only challenge what's part of your estate, right? So if like superannuation, for example, is outside your estate. So if you are able to lawfully put stuff into super while you're alive, then that might be a way around it. But then when they do challenge the will and say your estate is smaller and the stuff outside your estate, e.g. your super is bigger, then that's taken into account. So I reckon if you try those things, that letter and but maybe just chat to a lawyer as well about this, someone who's done challenging a will.
Yeah.
So like Elise Croft from Croftbridge is one person that does it. Speak to them to see if there's any more sophisticated means you can take.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for phoning through. We've run out of time, Nick, so thank you very much for coming in today. We might get back to that, the pronouns discrimination, when next I see you. But thanks for your time today and your expertise. Thanks for chatting to our listeners.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal. We'll come back in just a moment. Just a reminder, Mick Collis not far away. He's back in town in a big way.